without the power of God behind everything I do, I really am completely inadequate.
I'm helping the culture. These guys are part of us as well. You know, these are guys of our cousin. I'm helping the culture. I'm pushing the culture forward in another way.
Hey, black child, be what you can be, learn what you must learn, do what you can do, and tomorrow.
What do you do after you read? What do you do after you know all, right? And you can say that you're truly conscious. How are you putting what you know into action?
Hey y'all, welcome to the New Black History Makers Show. I am your host, Jasmine Gates, and I am here at the Good News. Shout out to the home team. As always, I don't know why I always say I'm never by myself, but I'm never by myself. Right. So it's like people can expect that I won't be here by myself. But if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, then you can see that I have Lost Speaks Volumes here with me. Y'all. Yeah, somebody that if you've been following me, you've probably seen me post her, or if you've been to any of my events, like back in 2017, 2018, you saw Law performing or Law just there. So, right. Yeah, it's been some time that we've been knowing each other. But yeah, thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited.
Me too.
So yeah, we'll get into it, and kind of get into your intro and stuff. But before we do that, how are you?
You know, I'm good. I'm blessed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm feeling honestly like the only person who can stop me from being my best is myself. Right. So I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. I love that. The only person that can stop me from being my best is myself. That's good. That's a bar. But yeah, so like y'all know, whenever I have a guest on, or every show, I was reading an article, and it was basically just saying that we should not stop, but we should ask other questions along with how are you doing? Because, and I always say this, but usually when somebody comes on and it's like this kind of setting, they give me a more in-depth answer. But if it was in passing, they probably would have been like, just good or whatever. Right. So usually the guests give me, y'all give me like a good answer, but then I would love for the audience and then even the guests that come on just to get used to like some different kind of questions that you can ask people that kind of gets their mind going or gets, different conversations like facilitated basically.
But how are you?
Well, I'm good. Thank you for asking. That caught me. No, but I'm good. Running around busy, it's Juneteenth weekend. This is, I always say this is like Christmas. If you're a Black brand and you're doing it right, like this would literally be like a very good weekend for you. So
absolutely.
Just
doing it right.
Thank you.
You're doing it right.
Thank you. So yeah, it's it's one of them things like we can get caught up in like, oh, this is too much, it's too much. But it was like, there have been weekends, and granted, Juneteenth is really just now becoming a thing where we're able to monetize off it and all that. But there were weekends where I wasn't doing nothing, so it's like these are the days that, we pray for essentially. So, it's like, I'm busy, I'm doing whatever, but like also like I work for myself, so this is like my heart's work, so I can't, complain at all. I'm just like, this is what I want to be doing because I would be like so over it if I was working for like, the white man doing all this or whatever, or working for somebody else, so it's a thing where, it's a burden. And I think you can be like, whether it's overwhelmed or you can feel like it's a lot and still be grateful, so that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm happy. I'm not like, oh, I just need to get through the weekend. I'm like, no, I'm excited to meet people and there's new merch, so I'm excited just for people to see it, like to see all these Black people, for the next 2 days. Like, yeah, so that's where I'm at. Yeah. But thank you for asking that.
Absolutely.
So I didn't pick the question yet, so I'm just looking at these. Let's see. What impacted your week the most?
What impacted my week the most? My little cousins being over. I haven't seen them for a minute. They're coming from Vegas. I'm just getting out of school for the school year.
Yeah.
And them coming over was like, whew, okay, I gotta get back. I've been giving all my time to other kids and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's time for me to give back to my own, you know what I mean? So my cousin's been over, I kind of had to like attack it like, you ain't just dealing with other people's kids. These are kids that, are directly impacted by, the moves that I make and the things that I say and how I, just how I handle them on a day to day. So that's what's impacting me the most this week, just having their presence, at my house.
I love that. That's so good too, because the work that I do and in the community and stuff, and I often talk about like my little brothers, right, and being like the work that I do being inspired by them. But then, it got to the point where I was like, well, when do I, like show up for them? When do I make myself available for them? Or when do I make sure that these things that we're asking for, like I'm being present for them or making sure that they have space to share their emotions or do whatever.
Absolutely.
So that's like a point. And I think sometimes because there's so many people outside of our family that need help, right? Or whatever, it's so easy to just get so like engulfed in helping them. And then when you get to your family, it's like, no, I just want to chill. And it's like, no, you still have to go and
you still got a duty. That's more of an obligation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm figuring out there has to be a balance.
Yeah.
Like what I do outside, I got to be willing to do it inside, in home, 10 times over.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to learn how to say no in other aspects outside of my familial structure. You know what I mean? So that I could say yes to them,
right.
Way more often and just be more present, yeah, because I'm not trying to miss nothing, with them. So
no, for sure. And they grow up so fast. Yeah. So thank you for that answer. So then tell us about La Speaks Volumes. This, like who are you, what you do, all of that.
Man, I'm an artist and I am what I do is just I live so I could tell those stories, and I'm trying to live more so I could have more things to say. I'm also an educator, but I don't like to restrict that title to just being in the classroom. I feel like, part of my work as an artist and a poet is to continue to educate the community, continue to educate people. And that's kind of like the lens that I try to go at things, with, because I feel like, there's a lot of ignorance. That's easy to get swallowed. Sure. It's easy to get swallowed into a lot of ignorance nowadays. And I feel like, so we got to have those people who are willing not to be swallowed by that and kind of just like, hey, here's a reminder, like we live here. We're like, lot of earth, like right here. Like to kind of like just reel us back in. So that's what I've been trying to do with the work that I do. And I realizing that, I'm a voice that people tend to hold to a high regard. And after these 2 years of, the pandemic and like just being shut down, I didn't really understand that impact, like until, we were coming back out and people were seeing me, but not really knowing what I was going through and in the background, and not knowing that I didn't really have it in me to do it. And but it was like I had to muster up something like to say like I need to be a little bit more present, and I need to, because people are counting on my voice for something. It might not be the whole world, but even if it's one person, like they count on me to have a message, in the midst of chaos.
Yeah. And that's real, because I think there are, some of us, and whether, you're religious or spiritual, whatever, but like there are some of us that have certain assignments, right? And there are certain people. There are more people who, I don't want to say they don't have an assignment, but they have not realized their purpose, right? So once you kind of realize it, realize your gifts, realize what you are supposed to be gifting, to the world, you become like obligated to continue to give that.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's like when you're not operating in that, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you feel like it's a bad thing. So then it's this weight of like, I have to show up, I have to give.
It's a guilt for real.
Yeah.
Like when I feel like I'm not showing up in that space, it's like it tugs at me. Like, and I'm not going to sleep well, or like my mood is changing.
Yeah.
And up until I choose to be like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get back into my writing. I'm gonna get back on stage. I'm gonna go talk to people, whatever that may be. Like that's when it all changes for me, when I'm not resisting it, but when I'm away from it, and when I'm like, oh, something has to give because I'm not feeling good, you know what I mean? So I feel like that never goes away when it comes to what I do with my writing. It's something that always tugs at me, and something that I have dreams about and just really sleep on. And I'm really in this season of my life at the point where, like, I don't always have to be seen to be seen, or and I don't have to push, like, me, like, exploiting, like, myself, or just being everywhere to be everywhere. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's different ways to reach people, but it's also like, if I'm going to be seen, like, it needs to be purposeful. It needs to be for all the right reasons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I take what I do very, very seriously, and I'm scared. Like, if I don't use it right, like, I'm really scared, and I'm scared of more so God's repercussions than I am anything else, to be given a gift,
Right.
and to not handle it, with care. So I try to be as meaningful and mindful as possible, especially nowadays when, I am giving myself in my craft.
Yeah. I love that. So then let's talk a little bit about like how you started or how you kind of got into writing and being a poet and all that.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I have been writing poetry since I've been in elementary school.
Okay.
And I was in, like, national contests, and people never, like, knew that about me. Like, but I go to my grandmother's house, who is only, like, so many minutes away from here, and she has, like, all my accolades, and all the, like, publishings of, like, little poems that I did in elementary. And it was just, it's something that's always been with me, because I was always a quiet girl. Like, I was never like the life of the party, or the just that the one who stood out. Because but I would stand out, because I was always in the corner somewhere. Like, my grandmother and them knew, like, they didn't buy me, like, toys and stuff. They bought me a lot of books. I was very much so, like, one of those kids. And but I had a lot inside, very, very young. My father was murdered, and my mother was dealing with life at the time. She, was in federal prison. Like, it those things I was aware of when I was a kid, and I had so many different emotions, about those things. And I didn't necessarily feel safe to let them out, you know, with my grandmother and them, who were raising me at the time. Um, it just didn't. It was They didn't necessarily create the safest environment for me to express my feelings about, certain things. So writing was that thing in elementary. And I'm very I'm very surprised, like, as an adult, looking back on when I first started writing, how aware I was, and just the things that I would say. And how in tune I was with myself then. So that going from that, I never stopped writing, but it became a thing where I was actually writing poetry for my family members that passed away. One of the very first that I remember is my godfather. Um, got in got into a horrible car accident. Um, and I read a poem at his funeral. And then, after that, it became this thing where all my cousins and, family members would hit me up and ask for poems to be written when someone passed away. And it was often, um, it went from that. And then, I wrote on my own, but
Oh, wait, hold on. I think something is wrong with the audio. This is calling me. Hey.
Check your message.
Oh, is it the audio? Oh. Oh, sorry, y'all. Because that's Keith, the owner of the station. So if he called me during the show, that means something wrong. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, y'all. Hold on 1 second. I think it's this. I'm sorry, y'all. Is it on? Okay. I'm sorry. But you were saying that your cousins and stuff would have
yeah,
you
they
write
would they
poetry?
would, my family members, they would have me they would have me write pieces for the funerals and for the obituaries and stuff like that. And after doing that for so long, I did like stop because
Mm.
it was sad. like,
Mm.
And I felt like I was writing all the same things. But that was at a very young age. And then when I got off into college, I wrote for myself. I always had a notebook like with me, and I kept writing for myself. It's just something I never shared. And then one day, MJ, at the very beginning of our relationship, she had came over to see me, and she stumbled across a book of mine, and she's like, you write all the time and you didn't tell nobody,
Right.
like, and I'm like, I mean, what am I supposed to do? Like, I didn't
No,
know,
yeah.
I didn't know exactly what I was supposed to do with the writing, but I was like, yeah, like, I write or whatnot. So my 23rd birthday, um, all my best friends, like they grouped together and they took me to my very first open mic. Um, uh not just the very first open mic, but well, yeah, it was my very first open mic, and they had me perform. I didn't. They was going. Oh, so you know how they have the open mic list, and then I just heard my name, and I was like, what? Like, what am I supposed to do? So I
Right.
took my phone up there and I read like one of my poems,
Mm.
and that's where that was the first time I had seen Antoine Heard.
Mm.
And I just started going to this space, this space curated by Fat Dom and Gotti West,
Mm.
and called the Empowerment Project. And it was an amazing space. I would go every week, um, until I started making a thing of it, and it was like, had they not did it, put me up there, I don't know if I would have
Mm.
been performing today.
Right.
But they did that, and it sparked something in me, and it was that fulfilling. Like, I don't want to let this go.
Yeah. That's so good. Yeah, because I think maybe the first time I heard you perform had to be like 2017.
Mm.
And I don't even remember where we were. Yeah. I don't, because like we were saying offline, like there were so many events that were happening.
Absolutely,
I
yeah.
remember where I met you. Well, ironically, Keith, who just called, who's the owner of the studio, it was Nerd's birthday party, but Keith was hosting
Oh,
it.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was like my very, very first time coming into contact with anybody.
Mhm.
I didn't even, it's funny because y'all have heard me, talk about Keith. If you follow me, that's like my big brother. So we didn't even connect then. Like we knew each other for some time way after that event, or I met him way after that event. And then I was like, oh, you were the person, like hosting that event that I was at. But that's when I met you, MJ, Nerd, like, and I came with my cousin London. So that was like my first time, but then just started going to different stuff, and this was like way before New Black History Makers. I was just working in school.
Right.
Yeah. So it was like I was just doing whatever.
Right.
But yeah, and then we just stayed connected. So I've definitely like been a fan. So it's interesting just to hear your story. And then I also heard Antoine at your event, him like kind of talk about what you just mentioned too. So it's always interesting, like when you are a fan of someone, seeing you, of course, 2017 was 5 years ago. So then there's been a lot of like transitioning and growth and all of that. But it's just cool to hear like the origin story, like where it kind of started and stuff. But
yeah, because I've been doing what this year makes 10. This is 2022.
Yeah.
This year makes 10 years that I've been doing poetry, performing.
That's so good. Yeah, that's good. But yeah, before we have a few minutes before we go on break. So excuse me, we do that so you dropped an album, a poetry album called Joy Comes in the Morning. Morning, spelled MOURNING. So not the morning, but like mourning and weeping. Right. Yeah. So it was like I was saying offline, it was, just interesting because, I follow you on Instagram. So I seen, when you posted that things were happening or whatever, and then seeing you kind of like dip off or coming back on and kind of posting like this is where I'm at or whatever. And then not really seeing you out, one, probably because of the pandemic too. And then like we were saying, it wasn't really a lot of events, but you can kind of like go ahead and kind of tell like what kind of initiated that season, for you.
Yes. The initiation of that season was I have been in that season for almost a year. Before anything, I had just moved. I was just dealing with a lot with self-esteem wise and really trying to grab my reins and stuff like that. Of course the natural ups and downs of my relationship. And then it felt like the cherry on top was my cousin committing suicide, so that season I have felt like I was in it forever. It has started probably months or almost a year prior to my cousin passing because I really was out of tune. Like I wasn't present, even with myself. So the way that my cousin, committed suicide and uh the mental weight that it had on me, because me and all my family saw a live stream of him committing suicide. So, it was taunting. It was haunting because that message was clear to me that he wanted to be seen and heard, and he made sure that he was. So that was the initiation for me. Um, it was it was just a space I didn't know if I was going to come back from the same. Um, which in fact I haven't come back from the same at all. The just what I thought was that you guys probably would never heard from me again.
Mhm.
But the opposite ended up happening.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, and you live life. I mean, of course, like with people, right? Like sometimes, like you have your best friends, right? Like there's some people that you like do life with, right? But then like there's people that because you've been knowing them for a long time, you just like, oh, okay, well, I noticed this season of this. So it was just you did the event and it was really good, I think. And I'm sure a lot of people can attest to that. It was just really good to see, and not that it was the ending or like you said it wasn't like this is a journey, right? Like this is just the place that you are in your journey, and that's where things go, whatever. But I think it was just really good to see that you have found your voice again, whether you hadn't had it before or not or whatever, but like that you are comfortable being in the space that we like knew you from, right? But then also hearing you talk, it was like, yes, I'm here in this space, but like not as the same person, or I'm not
Yeah.
about to be like hit with the okey doke, like
Yeah.
like I'm different, so
Yeah.
it was just really good. And then also just hearing you be open, and like sharing it, because suicide is like hitting us hard right now.
Yeah.
It's something where you're hearing it at every single turn. It's something that's happening to college students, right? It's happening to
Right.
black men, black women. So it's like we got to start talking about it,
Yeah.
or we got to
Yeah.
start showing up for people, or being present. And that's kind of like what I also just liked about your project is that you talked about that. So we're gonna go to a break, and then we're gonna come back and talk about the project and talk about the event and all of that. But we'll be right back, y'all.
So
Okay. Hey, y'all. This is the New Black History Maker Show. I'm your host, Jasmine Gates. For those of y'all that are listening on the app and maybe are only hearing a part of this sometime during the week. So yeah, what I try to explain it. So you can watch on YouTube, you can watch on Facebook, but you can also listen on the app, and the app is streaming 24 hours. So what happens is when you don't have a live show on, our shows get replayed, but they get played in like the segments of 3 that we do. So sometimes somebody, it might play the middle segment, or it might play just the last segment, but just a little clip so that people can get more familiar with like the other shows and stuff. So yeah, if you are listening to the app and you don't listen to the show, listening through the app and you don't listen to the show regularly, you should also, you can follow us at New Black History Makers. But we are here with Live Speaks Volumes. We're talking about, we're going to talk about her project, Joy Comes in the Morning. Yeah, so I guess just tell us, where did the title come from?
Like I said, man, Joy Comes in the Morning. It was funny. There's a piece that I have in Joy Comes in the Morning that's called Too Much to Be Putting On. I wrote it in December. And at the end of that poem, like I had an idea, like if I would, it was going to be, this piece was going to be with a series of poems. And at the end of that poem, in my notes, I wrote like daybreak after morning. And I was like, I totally forgot about the piece. Like, and even the idea that went along with it. And so what ended up happening is that I, Too Much to Be Putting On, highlighted like the feeling of just like I got weight on me, and people are not, like, people have the nerve not to see this, but then also put more weight on me. Yeah. Like I could take anymore, and that was just it was 2 months after my cousin had committed suicide
That you wrote that piece.
that I wrote that piece. Okay. And I it was just, I felt like that was the time where my cousin, the impact of his death, like I was already going through survivor's guilt, and I felt really guilty. Um because when he passed, I wasn't surprised. And that's what hurt the most, not being able to see that somebody's ill and not knowing what to do. Like it was really crazy because um a few months prior to him passing, me and him had like the perfect day together. And I hadn't seen him in a while, so he had looked so like just big and like strong. And um he had wanted to buy some shoes, some Jordans, was like $400, I think. And I was like, boy, like,
Right.
how about I just take you to the mall,
Right.
and we can get you a couple shoes, like, you know what I'm saying? Versus you just getting one pair or whatever. Man, I don't know what I it turned into me and him going to like all my little cousins, like, yeah, we want to go too. Like, and um so he got into the front seat. Me and my mom had switched cars, because I got a Mustang. So my mom has, a 4-door. So he had got into the front seat, and he was like, can I take over your phone so I could play music and stuff? I'm like, yeah. So I'm driving them to the mall. Long story short, that boy had me in the mall for 4 hours, and I wanted to. I wanted to pop him so bad. Girl, I had on some J's and I was like, I gotta buy some Crocs. Like, so I bought some Crocs while we were in the mall so I could stay like as long as possible, for him to get whatever he felt like he wanted. And there was one specific moment we were in the line at Macy's. We were buying him. Uh, he wanted polo tees so bad, and I was like, "These expensive ass tees, like for nothing."
Right.
Like, and so, but he wanted them. But we were standing in line, and he was getting aggressive, like from the wait. But at one point we were there and it was only one like couple in front of us, but they were taking forever. Like, you know how you got them people who want to
Yeah.
return everything
Yeah.
and like, and it's just one person who's taking them, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So but during that time it was like more people who came around, so he started getting like really antsy and aggressive, like mad, like, man, if they don't fucking hurry up, if they don't. And I'm like, baby, what's up? Like, you good? And he like, yeah, so I'm rubbing him and I'm like, just we almost out of here. And he was like, Nay, that's what my family calls me. They call me Nay. While everybody else calls me La. But he's like, Nay, I have paranoia. And I was like, what is that? And he was like, I get very anxious when I'm around a lot of people, you know. And I was like, wow. And I was and as I was trying to spend time with him, at that moment I realized what he was trying to do too. He was trying to, for the sake of spending time, he put himself in a it was easier for him to buy the shoes online, one pair of shoes, than going to the mall and being around all these people. You know what I'm saying? In that moment, I noticed that, okay, he like, this is an exchange, and I need to pay attention, and I just it was like, you know how you could look at a piece of art and you just be like blown away, like in that 4 hours, that was the feeling that I had about my cousin. Like, wow, I'm so blown away about him growing and just him being able to be here with me, and he didn't even want to eat in the restaurant, but just because I asked him, he tried, but and I didn't even notice what was going on. But these issues that he had, they had only developed over time. Um, because of, times before that I had seen him, um, it was apparent that something was going on with him mentally. And he was really going through some changes because his brother, another little cousin of mine, 2 years prior to that, had been murdered. And him and his brother were the closest in age. So he hadn't seen his brother in years, and then turned around and seen him in a casket. He never came back from that. So, uh, as I thought me and my family, we were getting through this one loss, I thought, he was navigating through it. But after that time that I had seen him at the mall, and you know, I had I had left the next day. It a couple months after that, I had talked to him. We did remain in constant communication. Um, but I was at work one day, and one of my distant cousins had called. No, we was just talking like on Instagram, just about hair, because I was going through the natural thing. So I was like, I was getting hair tips from her, and she was like, "I'm so sorry. Like, I know like how much your baby cousins mean to you," and I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I don't know what you're talking about, you
Right.
know? And she's like, you know, D'Amica's son, and I know this is another one. And I'm like, another what? Like, what are like, so I grew so like I was shaking like at work, and thank God it was my planning period. I didn't have a class. But I called my mother, and I knew something was wrong because she didn't answer. And I think my mom was trying to protect me. But I took it another way because she didn't tell me. I had to find out from somebody else that something had happened with him.
Yeah.
And then I asked my mom what was going on, and she's like, Nay, Demarie, like he hung himself on Facebook Live. And I was like, I let out a scream so loud, like principal, like everybody, like is like in the hallway, like what's going on? So um, I had to leave work that day, and I was under the impression that he had a chance to live. Um, so I drove down to Arizona where he was, and by the time I got there, he had been pronounced dead three hours before that. So as I was on my way, my mom just didn't tell me because I was on my way by myself. Um, and we were allowed to see him get taken off of life support. And that last breath was what triggered like me going into a space that I didn't know if I was gonna come back from. So joy comes in the morning came from me understanding that I couldn't allow the moment to be the end. I had to, because I had to figure out a way to appreciate the fact that I was still living, and I had to do something about it. I couldn't I couldn't allow I couldn't just sit dormant and not do anything. And if anything, life, if he didn't teach me anything else, it was like, everything matters. Everything. Even when he was telling me he had paranormal, all that mattered because I needed, and that was the survivor's guilt. Like I felt like I had a responsibility, um, in doing everything that I could to possibly save his life, which, um, I will say now that that's not a fair weight to put on myself, because it's not me and me alone. Um, I'm not even a brink, like the I wasn't a problem for him, you know. If anything, I was a safe space for him, you know. So I had to learn how to I had to um take that weight off of myself, you know what I mean? And it's not something that's necessarily gone now.
Yeah.
It's something that I still have to I still deal with. Um but joy comes in the morning with such a breath of fresh air, because it made me get up and appreciate everything, even about myself, the things that I said that I wasn't, or uh the things that I said that I failed at. Like, I've made so much progress in my life,
Mhm.
rather than just from this moment,
Yeah.
that I needed to give myself credit for, and do better for myself. And I just felt like since he doesn't have the chance to live his life to his fullest capacity, then like I wouldn't be doing him a service by not living mine to the fullest, and taking what happened as a lesson that I will do everything in my power not to see happen again. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that the voice that he didn't feel like was heard would be heard. You know what I mean? And that joy comes in the morning. The first half of that is directly towards him. And with survivor's guilt and just me feeling like my cousins, I'm the oldest on my grandmother's side, my mother's side, I mean. I'm the oldest grandchild. So my cousins, they they s- they always would see me as put together, and like I'm on a I'm always on a mission, and I'm that businesswoman, I'm that, the cousin with the degrees, and I'm like this scholar, you know what I mean? And I it was like those were the things that they knew of me, you know what I mean? And they didn't know what pushed me to stay in school. They didn't know about, not having my parents raise me, like, and they didn't know that, going to high school on Crenshaw and Slauson, I'm in fights. I'm dealing with the negativity that comes from being in that environment, or, they didn't know about my dealings, um when it came to just like dealing with the the trauma that stemmed from my parents and, their parents and the trauma that came from being a young woman who was sexually abused. They never saw that because I always held face in front of my cousins, because um I didn't want them to see that. I wanted them to see the the accolades and the you no matter what you but they didn't see that no matter what you go through, you could still get to this point. They just saw the point. You know what I'm saying? And so while they're going through these things, like, that's where Demarie felt like I was so disconnected sometimes, because he didn't know that I had my own issues, so he would hit me up often and be like, you don't get it, like, or do you don't know that I'm like, but I've seen that dark space. But that's why that first piece in joy comes in the morning is survivor's guilt, because I'm like, there are things that I should have told you that I didn't know would have benefited you, um that I didn't see as a benefit, but I wish I had. I wish I would have seen that as a benefit, um, and how much it could have helped. You know what I mean? So it went from that, and it went from the understanding that all of the trauma that I am still trying to navigate and get through, like, all of these things aren't going to be overcome, like, when I think that I want to overcome them. Like, there's a process, there's a true process to it. So um I I was, a couple months after he passed, I was really just sitting with myself, and I was also contemplating self harming thoughts. Uh, because I got to a point where I felt like I wasn't worthy or I wasn't deserving. Like my cup had been emptied out, and I didn't know what else to give. And people are looking at me from a lens um, that keeps me in a space where that doesn't people are looking at me in a lens that keeps me in a space of my past, and it isn't reflective of the changes that I'm going through, or even like the the honesty that it requires to have with yourself to actually get to
Yeah.
that next point, that point of growth, or that moment of transitioning. So joy comes in the morning came from me having to understand, like, I got to be honest with myself
Yeah.
about certain things, but I also got to get some weight off of me. And I also have to see, like, I'm still valuable. I'm still valuable, and there's still a lot for me to do. There's still a lot to do, because if there wasn't, then maybe I wouldn't be here. You know, maybe my time would have passed
Yeah.
already, but like, it's still something for me to do, and I can find joy in knowing that I'm still here for the process. And that's what the show, which was the show was curated and turned into the album. The
Okay.
album was something that I was gifting to people, because I knew that the messages in it were going to be something that I would want people to continue to listen to, because I still have to listen to the messages. Um and the fact that writing the show made such an impact on me, that I was like, it brought me out of my depression. I wrote myself out of the depression. I wrote myself out of the dark space, and it was a space where I think God intended for me to be alone in. And I was really upset about being alone too, because I felt like so many people saw me. You were seeing me, like, in at this point, like, of almost no return, and you just looked at me like I was crazy, or you walked out, or you you talk you spewed things at me that were mean and just harmful, when I was already in a harmful state. You know what I'm saying? So, but I was like, I think that was definitely directed by God, of saying, like, you got to be alone in this space, because I need you to figure out what you need coming out of this. I need you to not also figure out what you need, but also stand on that. Be the best version of yourself. You're not gonna be that Lashanae who could speak on the stage but can't speak to your family about what you feeling. Because a lot of the times that is what it would be. I would wait until I'm on the stage to be able to get these things out, and me and my family don't really have communication about what the things that were going on with me. So, um, in Demarie passing, I transitioned into being very much more vocal with everybody around me, and it got really ugly, and the result of that was me ending up being by myself, but also being resentful. I was really mad, and I'm like, I just thought it was really unfair to have to go through the mental trauma um, of dealing with, Demarie's suicide, and I couldn't sleep by myself. Like, I couldn't turn off lights in my house, because I would see him. Like I said, his last breath triggered. It really triggered me. Just watching him and hearing the tube come out of his body. It was very it was it was traumatic, and that's all I envisioned, or all I could see moving forward, for about like 3 months, you know. Just now, like I don't even know why, like I can't. There was a point in time I couldn't sleep in my room with my closet open. Like everything had to be closed, including my door. Like that's not even the safest thing for a woman living by herself to
Right.
close your door. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I was scared of what I thought what I would see in the shadows, or when I would look up, or and knowing that it's my mind, you know, playing tricks on me. But these are the things that this is how mental illness does come into play. You know what I'm saying? I felt like Joy Comes in the Morning was me writing myself out of a illness that I started to become very much so aware of in myself, you know. And you guys would kind of see me like post things online, and it wouldn't be like the best things, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, damn, like, but I was like, I think it might be important for people to know that I don't feel good right now, you know. And but then with that, seeing that I don't feel good, it's also important for people to know that I am feeling better now,
Yeah.
you know. And being able to write through that was something that I felt was so monumental, and it saved my life, and it was very strategic, um, you know. And in having Mikey and Skrill be the only people that were really around. Like, and these are people that I didn't necessarily know. You
Yeah.
know.
So yeah, let's go on a break and then we'll get back into
So.
All right. Hey, y'all. Jasmine Gates here, your host. This is the New Black History Maker show. We're on the Good News Network. Download the app if you don't have it. But we definitely appreciate y'all for watching. So, definitely been talking about a lot, and kind of like hearing you detail like what what was what. It it's the conversations that we need to have, right? Because I think, like you mentioned, you said like everything mattered or
Yeah,
everything matters now, right? Like, and
absolutely. Yeah.
you know, it challenges me, or it should challenge us to say like, okay, everything should matter.
It
Like
should.
while you still have people with you, or while you're able to kind of like call things out. Um, I know that some things, it's like, especially when people are in a certain space mentally, it's hard to help them. But we've went a long time not doing anything, especially in our
Yeah.
communities where
Yeah.
we see things, we don't call them out, or we don't love on our people, or we shame people for going through mental illness. And I'm someone who will always say like mental illness doesn't look how you think it looks. Like
Mm-mm.
mental illness is something that can be silent, right? Mental illness
hmm
is something that
Mental illness could look cute in a moment too.
right,
It could present itself as just like it could present itself as great,
right,
in front of you.
right,
So I think that you know there are some like signals that may go off to notice mental illness. Um, but anybody is subject to it,
yeah,
and I feel like everyone probably has been subject to it.
mhm,
You know what I'm saying? It's just to different
yeah,
degrees. But what I feel is like no form of mental illness should be taken taken lightly.
yeah,
Just as I feel, no form of abuse should be taken
yeah,
lightly. Like, and it doesn't matter what degree or what capacity, like if you see it, you should say something,
yeah,
or you should offer help. And that's the thing, especially in the Black community. We see it all the time,
yeah,
more times than not, that people will fall subject to mental illness, and then they drinking all the time,
yeah,
or they smoking all the time. and
mhm,
and a lot of the times people be like, I'm doing this so I don't have to deal with
yeah,
my issues or whatever. Like, and you don't want people to fall into a hole that they can't get back up
yeah,
from, you know what I mean? And um sometimes it you know it's sad to see that it takes loss for us
to wake up,
to
kind of,
feel away.
yeah,
um but mental illness has always been something that I've always like been scared of. When it comes in my family, I feel like a lot of my family members um are functionally like mentally ill.
mm,
you know they found this thing that they feel safe doing,
yeah, like a
um
coping mechanism,
yeah,
yeah,
to cope with but it displays like in their behavior with other people
yeah,
or around other people, or some things will come out
yeah,
and in the middle of just being drunk and
yeah,
high, you know what I'm saying? And um I've seen it a lot. I've seen substance abuse be one of those coping mechanisms.
yeah,
A lot of the times that my family has taken place in, taken part in. So it's just it's something that I feel like I've been very fond of for a while. Just growing up in my life. So I don't know many of my family members who aren't like currently like mentally ill and really and badly,
yeah,
you know. Um so I definitely think it's something that we need to learn how to address.
yeah,
Um and be honest about. I think that what keeps us in our community from being honest about it is the fact that you feel embarrassed. You know, it's the embarrassment behind it. And that the when we talk about therapy, I brought up therapy, and especially like, to my brother. I have a younger brother. I've suggested that, and his first response to me was just, ain't nothing wrong with me,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, I told him, like, I don't think anything has to be wrong with you for
Right.
you to go get therapy.
Right.
I think that you should get therapy before something does go wrong with
Right.
you.
Yeah. The
Because
fear is interesting.
Hmm?
The fear that
Yeah.
our community has when it comes to therapy. Because even my brother is 21, and I mentioned it to him because he was like, my mom had asked this question, like, what are the 5 things that like you're prioritizing right now? And he was like, my mental health. And I was like, well, are you going to therapy? And he was like, I don't need therapy. And I'm like, well, how are you prioritizing your mental health? Not that you have to go to therapy, but like,
I mean, but
what's
really,
happening,
what are you doing?
yeah,
Right?
and I think
Yeah.
we're talking about it a lot. It's something
Mhm.
that you see on social media. So people know the language, right? But don't
Mhm.
really know like the work that it
Right.
takes to really
Right.
like deal with your mental health in those ugly moments, or looking at yourself and being like, okay, I don't need to respond. I don't have to respond that way. That
Mhm.
way that I responded is it's kind of ugly, or it's not in
Mhm.
alignment with who I really want to be.
Mhm.
So it's like we can post all these things and say all these things about mental health, and like you said, where we're making it look cute, but I'm like really changing and really dealing with like and undoing the things that we were taught as children, or the things
Mhm.
that were done to us,
Mhm.
as children. Like
Mhm.
that's not a pretty process,
Yeah,
you know.
nah. Nah, I think also mental health is is definitely something that we've learned to have the language for.
Mhm.
Um, but I think that people think that that's enough
Yeah, that's
to
enough.
have the
Yeah,
to have the language for it.
right.
And I think it's even sicker to have the language for it, and not
The
not
action. Yeah.
necessarily put the work in, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because and that just highlights
Yeah.
mental illness, the fact that you can say like something is wrong, and then not really want to do the work
Yeah.
to figure out what it is, or to figure out how to get yourself better. And I think that also what people need to understand is that we are not we're not obligated to do it alone, you know. And I think that would help if, because people love to talk about others. I for a couple months in my head, I'm like, it's crazy to me how people will see you like losing yourself and call you crazy, right? But don't think it's crazy that they just watching. They don't think that
Yeah.
that's crazy,
Yeah.
that they will see you literally losing your
Mhm.
mind.
Yeah.
And they find enough space to talk about it, just for the sake of saying like, I ain't got those problems, you know
Mhm.
what I'm saying, versus talking about it to get you some type of help. And I'm just like, we hurt ourselves so much.
Yeah.
And I mean us, like, in our interactions with each other in the Black community. I feel like we hurt ourselves so much because a lot of people are okay with not being okay as long as they're not the only ones. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I'm just like, I rather be someone who's saying I'm not okay with not being okay.
Right.
And I don't need none of y'all to be pretending with me, you know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
That everything is okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the problem lies. Like, we try to put on this we try to put on this cape all the time. You know, and my thing is you can still be strong, you could still be amazing, you could still be all these great things, even in tackling your mental health, you know. And I think that's something that definitely just needs to be highlighted. Like you you could still be a great individual with these things going on, you know, and with the fact that you trying to tackle it. Like, you know, like with me, I could say I'm not strong enough all the time to not uh adhere to like the energy in my direct environment. So it's like when I'm around, it's like I don't need to shape shift to fit this. You know what I'm saying? Like I need to actually be myself and be okay with that, and be okay with the fact that everybody else might not be. You know, for the sake of addressing mental illness and knowing that some triggers is like drinking and you know, smoking. If that's your thing, that's your thing. But I felt like in my space, like I don't drink anymore. I don't smoke anymore. Like I don't do these things because I don't want, when people come into my space, I don't want them to think like this is the thing that we do here. So we could not you deal with what we got to deal with. And I'm willing to be that party pooper or this one, because I'm like, look, alcohol don't serve me no good, because it ain't like it's a health, it's something healthy, right? But like I said, it goes along with people are okay doing something that they know isn't good for them, as long as somebody else is joining with them. If I'm that person who makes you feel uncomfortable because I don't want to do this, maybe I need to just be okay with being that, because that means that in this space we have to address what's going on with us without anything facading that, you know.
And when did you decide that? Was that before Joy Comes in the Morning or
After?
After?
Yeah, because even after the show, like the girl who was there, like serving liquor and stuff, like she got me a lot of liquor, but like I left it at the show. Like I didn't even drink it. Like I lost it before I left the building. Like I'm like somebody else probably picked it up, whatever, you know. But I didn't feel nothing from it, or the fact that I have bottles of wine in my house that I haven't drunk. You know what I'm saying? And they've been there for months. And it's because I don't like the feeling that I get of not of being out of tune with myself when I got stuff to deal with, you know. And you know, I was joking with my friends, like, you think people would be upset, like, if I just said a rule in my house was like I don't bring drinks here, like, and then it's like, well, don't people say like take off your shoes or whatever, you know? And then they're like, why you care so much? Like it's your you can make that space safe for yourself, you know? And that's one of the things that I feel like I need, because I don't it's easy for me if everybody else is doing it. I'm like, if I'm not having a good day, then I'm like, yeah, pass me that, or you know, whatever. But I was like, I need to be more conscious of like the message that I'm sending out to people and to my family. Like, I want you to get better. I can't be a part of you getting better if I'm providing an environment that's toxic to you.
And it's interesting because I think a lot of times as we heal and stuff, it's natural to be concerned with, like, or anytime somebody's doing something positive, like we be concerned with how are other people gonna take it, right? But then when it's like you said, drinking or something toxic, it's like we just do it. You know, we not like, are they gonna feel like, whatever? But it's interesting because that's a thing. And then what's also crazy is you'll realize when you're the only person providing like a positive experience for somebody, or somebody here that you being disciplined in that area, like people desire like wholeness, right? But they don't know how to access that. They don't know how to access healing. So when they hear like, oh, you put down X, Y, and Z, like it sparks that interest. Like I was thinking about it, and then that sparks another conversation. But it's like we be so like that misery loves company, like you said, or like trauma bonding, right? That we won't step outside of something to see like, what if this brings me more healing? But sometimes it takes like that one person being like, nah, we ain't doing that over here, you know. And not that it has like, you can go do it where you want to do it,
exactly.
but like,
Not
this
that
is
it's a
where,
control thing.
yeah,
It's just more so like,
this is my space.
This is my space. This is what I need.
Yeah.
And for me, and you know, and it could be good for you, but if you don't want to partake, like, you either don't have to come, or you could do all that before you get here. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's so crazy how, you know, sometimes we could be self-sabotaging by appeasing the crowd, or not not necessarily addressing things. And that's why Joy Comes in the Morning did come, because I felt like I had to address the elephant in the room. Like, we all know that this big ass elephant is in the room. Like, so okay, so I'm just gonna have to say it then. You know what I mean? And this is something that is going to help with my healing. And maybe, and what I've learned is that it's helped others. You know, and not even just my family, but it did mean a lot to me. Like, the day after the show, my mom never heard none of the music and stuff like that, or any of my pieces, because I was intentional about not letting her hear it. But it was amazing the day after the show to see her playing the songs, because she was constantly playing them. And I was just like, yo, like, that's what I wanted. For them to be able to tap into it and take something from it, and be still, you know, it's something that reminds us all of Demarie. So it's a gift in itself, you know, to be able to also give him a voice where he's voiceless now.
And it's, you know, they say often, like, when you heal yourself, you hear you heal. When you heal yourself, you heal up the lineage. You know, and a lot of times I think even with our family, like, them seeing like, oh, you know, whether they look at you as like this younger person or whatever, but if they see you living in a certain type of freedom, they're gonna have to question, how is that happening, coming from where we come from, or whatever. So that, you know, it's just really good. And then I love that, you know, you said like giving Demarie a voice, you know, like giving him a voice. And I feel like even the way that you've, like, you know, spoke about him, and even like the story that you told about him being at the mall, or y'all being at the mall, and then like being there at the event, and then of course like hearing you give that first piece, right, like Survivor's Guilt, and hearing like you kind of talking to him, right, like we were in there, but it was like you really talking
just
to
me and
him.
him.
Yeah. So hearing that, and then just kind of hearing like how he essentially, like, of course, not the situation that we want, but like, you know, he is a piece of you, like changing your life, or just making better decisions or whatever. And not that like the decisions before were bad, but just
Right.
you know, like just deciding like, okay, well, with this moment I'm gonna do this, or with this season I'm gonna do this. So it's just really cool, because I think like our boys just don't get the love, and they just don't get enough of anything.
And you know what, I also think, I think our boys are too, like, they're too immune to one emotion, or being told like
Everything else is, you can't have
you can't have a, like, it's just one emotion. It's either like you either angry, or you happy, you know. And I'm like, or, and there's like no in between type of thing. And you know, I saw that with Demarie. I see that with the men in my family, you know, my brother, you know, even my partner. I'm like, yo, like, you have more emotions than being mad. Like, true, like, we have a spectrum. You know what I'm saying? Don't let this emotion just define you, because there's so much more. Or if you feel like crying, bro, please do that, because I'm not here to judge you about that, because when I do it, I need you to provide that space, you know. But even in some of the men, like, in my life, seeing me cry gets them upset. Like, because that they don't know how to they don't know how to empathize, or
Yeah.
you know what I mean, or or to them that would be being soft.
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, we all need the soft life,
Right.
okay? Like, we all need that.
Right.
So it's just like, take those steps, you know what I mean? And we sometimes it just takes us stepping outside of ourselves
Yeah.
to find better ways
Yeah.
to cope, better ways to heal.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say cope, because I don't want to cope no more. Like, I
Mhm.
don't like coping. To me is like putting a cover over
Yeah, like
yo
a
ish,
Band-Aid or
you know what I'm
something, yeah.
saying? Like, I don't want to cope, like, and I also don't want to be in the space of healing all the time either. And I think that's really important, knowing, being able to understand when you've done enough to be able to say, I've arrived. I'm
Mhm.
not always in a healing space,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm working on the point to where I'm like, I'm arriving
Mhm.
to the point where it's like, yeah, like, my healing work has been done,
Mhm.
you know, and there's something else that's gonna come about that I might have to heal from, or
Yeah.
whatever, but it's like, we gotta find different ways. And especially with our men, I really want them to find different emotions to be
Yeah.
able to tap into and feel free doing that.
Yeah.
Stop allowing, like, social media and just like just environments to restrict them in such a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, because there's diversity, and like I
Yeah.
was saying earlier, like, you can be overwhelmed and grateful in the same moment, in the same season, or
Mhm.
whatever. You can be happy and sad, right?
Mhm.
Like, there's multiple things. You can be crying and be filled with joy,
Mhm.
or crying, like mourning something, but then also glad that you're getting ready to go into a new season. So
Absolutely.
there's diversity in that. Um, I'm glad that you kind of just like opened up and like shared your heart and stuff. So, Joy Comes in the Morning, which is the title of this
Mhm.
episode, is her album. Please go get it. We were supposed to, maybe I just got to have you come back so we can talk more about the album, but we were supposed to like go over, and not even supposed to, but my preparation for it was, of course, some questions and conversations like we had.
Mhm.
But then I was going to like go into some of like the work, but like, the work is the story. So like, it kind of just went. But like I said, I've seen, and we have a few minutes left, but I've seen, live perform for the past 5 years. So, and not even perform, but just like live life, right? Like
Mhm.
you, becoming a teacher and getting your
Mhm.
degrees, like doing all of that. Like La's educated. She didn't mention it, but Sis is educated. She got degrees. So seeing that, right, and seeing you get the degrees, right, and then also seeing you in a different space and being like, that's inspiring. Like that's dope that you went out and did that, and then got to the point where you did become a teacher, or you are a teacher now.
Mhm.
Like those things are dope, right? But then also what I've mainly known you as is this artist, like this
Mhm.
poet. So me seeing that law has always been like powerful, right? And always been able to like command a room or whatever. But like literally um sitting there and seeing you perform that last piece, I See Me,
I
which I
see.
told you, it
Mhm.
was just like the whole thing kind of like tied together. It
Mhm.
was just like you talk about the healing that you did and you being by yourself, and it's like it was very evident in that piece that some work had happened.
Mhm.
Like something had took place um internally, because like I pay attention to stuff and I watch people, like I'm just very much so like a watcher of people and I can
Mhm.
remember things. So it was just very new, for me to see you like perform that piece that way. And, that comes from somewhere. So it's not
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm just performing, whatever. But it's like, nah, like, you tapped into something that was different.
Oh, yeah.
And me even listening back to it, like the music in the background and just hearing like the stuff that you saying, like, and I wrote some of it down, but you just saying like, I mean, this is not necessarily a low point, but like
Mhm.
you saying something like there are parts of me that might be below average, right? But just
Mhm.
like being real, like
Mhm.
I'm not like
I'm
perfect,
not
but I
yeah.
know that, and I'm not
Mhm.
expecting for you to come in here believing that,
Yeah.
but come in here and be like real. So definitely, please go get the album, download it. I'll try to, well, not try to, I'll post it and post the link on New Black History Makers. But yeah, that was like the whole thing was dope, especially considering the fact that it was off the back of that situation, so just to see you on the other side of it, because it was something that you said about like the guilt, right? Or feeling like, dang, I should have did, I could have did, I could have did, I could have did. And then you get into the point of saying like, no, that wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't get to that point, and a lot of people stay in that point of I should have, and then they repeat the same thing that he did.
And exactly.
So
exactly.
that was just it was just really cool. I mean, cool is not the word, but it was good.
It's still a great word.
Yeah, it was good just to see what came out of that. So I'm grateful that there was healing that took place, or that you were able to find like, and you said like there's more for you to give, and I'm like, there's also more for you like to receive. Like there's more for people to give to you, or for God to give to you and stuff like that. But
and that's what I realized. It's not done yet.
No.
It's not done yet. And I might not even be the person to be able to say when it is, like I gotta know that my assignment, I'm confident about my assignment being my assignment. I'm here as a, I would like to say a true speaker, and, a storyteller, and, and we healing together, and it's something I take very, very seriously. And I just want you guys to know that you can hold me accountable to that,
Yeah.
So it's not done.
Yeah. So I love that. I'm just so grateful that you came on the show. Where can people find you on Instagram?
Well, you can find me at La Speaks Volumes, spelled just like that, LASPEAKS Volumes.
So yeah, follow her on
IG, Twitter, all that.
Go get her her poetry album.
Yeah.
I definitely have to have you back. You got to come back, and because this is a very necessary conversation.
Whenever you want me back.
Yeah.
Girl.
And I also want to talk also like specifically about that album, because I think there's some pieces and some stuff in there that needs to be discussed and needs to be talked about. So
absolutely.
Thank you for that body of work, and then also for thinking enough of like the people to give us something so we could take it home, because a lot of times we go to these shows, or we've been to these shows, right? And you're like, I mean, granted with you, right? Like for the past 5 years, I'm like, dang, that was a good piece, right? But
right.
You go and experience it. So
yeah, that was
I'm grateful.
I'm grateful that I was able to do that with the help of Mikey and Skrill. They put me in a whole different mind state to do something that I didn't think that was possible for me to do, So I appreciate the fire that they put in me to be able to deliver that to you guys, and be able to add a different element to my show. Don't expect the album out of every show, though. But this was so special that it needed to be documented, and it was, in honor of Demarie. You'll see him and myself on the cover. So it's just something that I feel, I wouldn't have been able to do without both of them, Mikey and Skrillafornia. Like, they're amazing individuals, and they taught me in this process. So I gotta thank them for that.
Yeah, Mikey was on this show, I think like maybe my second show, so back in like January, so or the third one. But yeah, so please, send this album out if you caught a piece of it. Yeah, so if you caught a piece of it, go back and listen, because I think we really need to start having some tough conversations. And a lot of times we as Black people will try to, like, I don't want to say it's an excuse. Like I'm a fan, not a fan, but I'm a believer in having boundaries. And if people don't want to experience something, then okay, whatever. But so we got to start having the tough conversations, because it's a lot of tough things happening, and we gonna have to deal with the tough ramifications of things if we don't start speaking up and talking about things.
Absolutely.
And some of the things, that we have to talk about are a little brutal. They're not easy to hear, but I would rather we talk about it than, deal with like I said, the ramifications of not talking about it. So yeah, I would say go back and listen to the episode. Like, have conversations with people, like talk to people, do that work too. Cause sometimes that can be like the minor thing, the
Yeah.
thing that kind of changes for people. But yeah, definitely just do that work with yourself and the people
Absolutely.
that you love. But thank you
Right.
all for coming on.
Of
Definitely
course.
gonna have you back. I feel like I said that after every show because these conversations be good. And then also go back and listen to some of the other episodes. Like we be talking about some real stuff on here.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff, like stuff that's really necessary, or just some lighthearted things. But yeah, go back, listen to some of the episodes, replay this one, and then anything you want to leave like with people or anything.
Just be kind to yourself. Be patient. Know that mental illness isn't something to tackle by yourself.
Yeah.
I think that we need to understand that it just like it takes a village to raise children, it takes a village to keep growing and navigating in these spaces that we are in every day. So be kind, be patient, and do the work, but bring someone else along with you to also do that work.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, and thank you for just coming and like sharing your heart. I
Of course,
appreciate
of
that.
course.
And I hope y'all appreciate that too. Um, but yeah, but that's it. So I'll be back next Friday, Juneteenth weekend. I hope y'all buying something black.
Please.
Yeah. I will be Compton's Black Exchange at the grocery outlet. Watts Sticks or something. Watts Sticks
Oh,
Foundation.
he's having an event.
Yeah, I
Okay,
forgot. I
okay.
think it's called Sticks Foundation or something, but it's the
Mhm.
Watts Street Festival that's happening. I'll have a booth there and a booth in Compton, and then Sunday, um, LA Black History Month ev- event, something like that. It's at Westchester Park, I think.
Mhm.
I will be there from open to close, but I'm speaking on a panel at
Mhm.
1:15. So
On
feel free to
Sunday.
pull up. Yes, on Sunday. So we Juneteenth it up. And there's
Mm-hmm.
new merch, and then like I always tell y'all, probably forgetting, but um, at the Fox Hills Mall, you can shop there, shop online, and then also on Melrose at Unloved LA, you can also get merch there. So shop with us, do all of that, and then definitely share this, please. I think this is an episode that a lot of us need to hear. So share this with people and have a great day. Have a great weekend. I hope to see some of
Yes.
y'all.
Be blessed, y'all.
Yep. All right, y'all. Where's the mouse? Oh wow. Am I tripping? Do you see it?
What, the cursor?
Yeah. Oh, there it is. All right,
I
y'all.
was like, I saw something.
Without the power of God behind everything I do, I really am completely inadequate.
I'm helping the culture. These guys are part of us as well. These are guys of our cousin. I'm helping the culture. I'm pushing the culture forward in another way.
Hey, black child. Be what you can be. Learn what you must learn. Do what you can do. And tomorrow...